Hello, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Many Mistakes to Go podcast. So, this week is going to be another get to know me episode, but I want you to get ideas from me, and I also want to get ideas from you guys. So, if you're watching, comment below on a bucket list idea, because I am trying to create a bucket list, and no hate to what's online, but I feel like there's a lot out there that I've either done or don't want to do. So I want to hear what you guys have in terms of a bucket list. Also, I created a video and I started recording 20 minutes worth, but there was a girl. I had the windows, the blinds open, and there was this girl walking her dog, and literally, I'm not kidding you, this screen is my window, this was her. The whole freaking time. I'm like, you are standing out here. Your dogs are not peeing. They're sniffing. Keep walking because it's creepy. And I get it. I'm in the comfort of my own home. I can close the blinds, which I ended up doing because she came back doing the same thing. But it was just a little bit creepy to me because I was right in front of my window, dude. Nobody else has their window open. I literally had the window open for light. Now I'm using my ring light. So I was just come on, this is so creepy. I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I'm a very talkative person, and I feel like on social media I have this huge personality, and I'm very talkative, opinionated, whatever. But when it comes to real life, I get so anxious. I probably have some form of social anxiety. I know I have anxiety for sure, but definitely some form of social anxiety is out there. But I digress. I closed the blinds and am recording in the safe space of my own office, which I now have the shoe rack and cube organizer done. That was so awkward because I'm doing it backwards, but I digress. Anyway, so back to bucket lists. I was reading through random bucket lists that I was finding online, and I realized, I'm very fortunate because there were a lot of things that I've already done. So, for example, I know I'm very fortunate. I've lived in Florida, I've lived in Connecticut, and now I live in Texas. Living in Florida, I went to Disney, I've went to the beaches, Busch Gardens, Wet n Wild. There's probably a few other parks. I know Wet n Wild closed forever ago, but I went to a water park. That's on somebody's bucket list, I guess. But I've went to a lot of amusement parks. I've ridden roller coasters. I've went to carnivals, stuff of that sort. I went camping. I know that was on the list. I went... Where else? I went to New York City. I'm skipping now because I can't think of anything else in Florida. I went to New York City, and during Christmas time, I went to Beetlejuice on Broadway. So I went to a Broadway show. Well, I don't know if it classifies as Broadway. Either way, I went to see a show, which was really cool. I enjoyed. Yes, it does classify, I think. I don't know. I digress. I'm just going to shut up about that. But I went to see Beetlejuice on Broadway, and it was really cool. I don't know what classifies it as a Broadway show, but I digress on that. I went to New York City a couple of times. Once to see that show, once to see Fletcher on Fletcherween. And I went around Christmas time, so New York City was super decorated. People were ice skating. I've went ice skating before, not in New York City, but in indoors, so I'm gonna count it. Living in Connecticut, I've also went hiking. Um, Living in Texas, I've definitely done a couple of things, but nothing too crazy that you can't do anywhere else. I've traveled alone. I went to Italy. I went to Rome specifically. I went to the Colosseum. I've eaten pasta. I've eaten gelato. I've eaten pizza. Like a lot of things that I've seen on the bucket list. I'm like, wow, I've done that. Cool. Like, so I know that I'm very thankful. Um, I've went on a cruise that was out of Florida. Um, so like there's definitely a lot of things that I see on other people's bucket lists and I get why, but I have been fortunate enough to experience them. So I'm like, dang, I want to come up with a list, like a good list of things that I've truly never done that I want to do. Um there's also like other things on the list like falling in love and I'm like, okay, like I definitely understand it, but I feel like some of it is like maybe made by kids, like falling in love, I think graduating high school, graduating college, and I'm like, okay, some of these things are no longer my dreams, so I need to like find good things. And some of the things on the list so far that I've found is buying a house. That's one on my list. I definitely want to own my own home one day. I feel like I want to find a good place that me and my girlfriend can agree on and settle down. I want to get married. I've always dreamed of getting married, but like now that I've come out and I'm dating females and like imagining myself marrying a female, I'm like, this makes sense. Like when I was dating guys, I was like, I don't really care to get married. Like now I'm like, get me a ring. Like I want to be married. Like we're exclusive. Like nobody touch you. Like you're mine. Like I don't know. I feel like it's a whole different world because like I actually want it. um, Going camping but with friends. And the difference in this is like when I went camping, I don't know if this is going to relate to like a niche group of people or if it is more relatable than I think. But when I was younger, I lived in like a gated community in Florida and I this community was built maybe like around 2004. It was really close to a middle school and it was in like basically the suburbs of Naples, Florida, if you will. So, like, if anyone knows anything about Naples, it's where like old people go to die, but also it's kind of ritzy and like I think the home that my parents built that was like probably cost 400,000 is like over $1 million worth now, which is insane to think about it. But in this neighborhood, you know what? I'll just go ahead and say it because I don't live there anymore, so I don't really think there's a need for privacy. The community was called Indigo Lakes. It's right next to the middle school that I went to. And essentially, this neighborhood, there was a bunch of kids because it was a very sought after neighborhood for families around, 2004 ish, I would say, is when it started being developed. And people like buying houses and building them and whatnot. So my parents made friends with other parents on the block. And specifically, my mom made friends with two of the couples, and my dad made friends with, the male couples. So these couples, like, were all married, and, they had all kind of gotten a divorce around the same time. So, like, I was like hanging out with these kids, and like when my parents got divorced, when it was mom's weekend, we all saw each other because we all had our moms the same weekend, and then dad's the same thing. So like we were constantly grouped together, which I didn't really mind because those were like my people anyway, but I was also the oldest one in the group, um, which felt very alone at times because I was like I was the oldest one besides my brother. I was like the oldest female. So like I felt, I don't want to say looked up to because that's not really what I would go for, but like I definitely feel like it was odd because I was a little bit older and my brother was a little bit older. Like he was 3 years older than me. So he's like hanging out with people, really like younger than him. So it was like awkward because it was like at the age that we would like babysit them. Um, so with that being said, we would switch off back and forth and I would do a lot of things with them. Like one of those things was camping. And like I want to do that with friends. Like I don't want to do that with my like family, my dad and like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to do that. Like it's a whole different thing now because I don't have kids, so I'm not going to do the same silly little things that I would have done back then. I would probably like have some fun, I would definitely be drinking some wine, like I feel like I would just be having fun and not like sitting around the campfire singing the campfire fire song. Like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like very niche group of people probably understand the whole parents getting divorced back and forth with the kids type of thing. And like if you had that niche group of like parents who all divorced around the same time, that's probably even less of a group that understands that. But if you understand that, I'm so glad. Um, but essentially, I feel like I would have a lot more fun camping with friends, and I feel like we would do stupid shit like kayaking, which another thing, I've done kayaking before, and I've also done night kayaking, like the LED light night kayaking. So that was on the bucket list, and I'm like, dang, I want like things that like I haven't done. So please help me because I know that there's a list out there and I really want some like good recommendations for a bucket list because I want to like incorporate my bucket list into like vision boards eventually. So, anyway, another one is going sledding. I know this is going to sound lame because like it's sledding. A lot of people have done that, but this is the one thing that I never truly actually did, is like sledding and like snowmobiling. I think that's what it is. But I want to enjoy the snow in the ways that I feel comfortable enjoying the snow. And I have went sledding in the backyard, but like not really, if that makes sense. Like I know that there's places people go down like mountains and like sled and tube and stuff. I want to do that. I don't want to ski and I definitely don't want to snowboard. And if my girlfriend ever wants to do that, she is going to go while I sit my ass in the cabin and read a book by the fire because I'm terrified. But no, in all seriousness, like I feel like I would love a snowmobile or like sledding would be fun. Another thing I want to do is have a true spa day. And I know this is another weird one, but I have always dreamed about like going to the spa with like a group of friends. And I feel like the movies kind of instilled this one on me because I know you guys know that there's like movies or like TV shows out there where like a group of girls get together and like drink wine and like they talk and they have like these relaxing spa days. I have gotten a massage and I've been in a sauna. And like those things are fun and relaxing, but I know that there's so much more to that on an actual spa day. Like I know there's people that like get facials or like these like mud baths or like these like really kind of cool enjoyable things that help their skin, their body and their wellness, and they're doing it with friends at the same time. And like, I don't like doing things alone. I've tried. I've literally eaten at a restaurant alone and I've traveled all the way to Italy alone. Like, I know I don't want to do things alone. I know that life is all about experiences with other people and like what you make of life. So I definitely want to do more things with people. And I think that's one thing that I would do. Um, with that being said, also, actually, is I traveled to Italy. So that's one thing I've already checked off of my bucket list, which I think I might have already said. So sorry if I did. But again, I did say that this is my second time recording this, so I'm trying to remember what I did and didn't say in this recording. But anyway, next on my list is to make a difference in someone's life. And I know this one is a little bit weird, but I create content for a living, right? I would love if it was like a full-time gig, but it is literally a side gig to me. And I make these podcast episodes about the mistakes that I've made in my life and how whoever's watching, this is how not to make that mistake, or giving you guys insight into life lessons that I've learned or things that I've realized or whatever the case. So that's why the, podcast is called Many Mistakes Ago, because I know that I'm very mistake prone and accident prone and just, have fucked up a lot. And I feel like I know that I've made differences in people's lives. Like, I know that I've helped people. But, like, to say that, like, I made a true difference in someone's life is something that I want to experience. And I don't know why. I think it's because I want to feel like I've helped somebody in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's giving them good advice, whether, I say something on a podcast and they're like, wow, Marissa, like, you kind of like saved me from doing this. And like, I learned from you, like, I feel like it shows that I have something to offer. And I feel like it's cool that, like, I actually mean something to somebody. Like, I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but that's, I guess, how I'm kind of feeling at the moment is I want to make a difference in somebody's life. And, like, I know I've made content about being sexually assaulted by an ex-partner. I've made content about wanting to off myself. I've made content about mental health. I've made content about coming out as gay. There's definitely content out there. I know I've made plenty of diabetes content. I know that there's content out there that people do love and appreciate. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I know that there's some people out there, and like, I'm one of these people too, where like they look up to someone and they're genuinely like, this person stopped me from like killing myself, or like, this person got me through a really tough time. And like, I feel like it would be such an honor to hear that from somebody, and it would be so special to hear that from somebody, because what I'm doing, I guess what it I don't know how to put it, because I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal, but I also know that there is a reason that I'm alive, and I have this like weird feeling that like sharing my story and sharing my experiences is why I'm alive still. And if that is the case, like, to get confirmation of that, I think would just be relieving in a sense. Not to say that I'm, like, gonna off myself if, like, nobody feels that way, but, like, I know that I'm alive for a reason, and I haven't quite figured out what that reason is. And don't get me wrong, like, I've definitely found my life now. I'm happy now, and I'm like growing and learning and becoming a human being and a member of society. But I just feel like if someone were to say, Marissa, like, you've made a difference in my life, it would be such an honor, because it's like, I know what it's like to be so low. And to, like, look up to somebody and be like, they're the reason that I, like, got through a really hard time. And I don't know, I feel like it's an honor, because you're just being you, and somehow you being you helped somebody. And I don't know if anybody is trying to, like, if anybody gets at what I'm trying to say, but guess what I'm trying to say is I think it would be an honor that if I made all of this content and it was for something, that it wasn't for nothing, that someone genuinely learned something or felt less alone because I created a certain video, you know? Like, I don't make content not for people to view it, if that makes sense. Like, I do want people to view it. It's scary to be perceived. It's scary to be judged. It's scary to put yourself out there, but at the same time, it's like a risk versus reward type of thing where if I don't put out the content, I'm not going to be able to make a difference in somebody's life. But if I do, I'm subjecting myself to bullying. I'm subjecting myself to hate, drama, this and that. Like, and I've been there. I've been bullied. I've, been talked about. I've been the reason that people think, it's a good idea to laugh at other people. Like, I've been laughed at. I've been bullied. I've been bullied on social media. I've been bullied in real life. Like, it makes no difference to me at this point, I think, with all the hatred that's going on. But I know that all of that hatred would be worth it if my words or, like, my content was the reason that somebody was still alive. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I guess I'm saying, and I know I've said this a million times. I know I said I guess I'm saying a million times, but there's so many different thoughts that I keep popping up in my head. But essentially, like, when I was younger and when I was, let's say, in a teenager phase and I was going through depression and all of that stuff, I feel like in this day and age, people look up to, like, people on social media. Whereas my age, we didn't really have social media like that. Like, we kind of did. It was mainly YouTube, I think, at the time. But, like, I looked up to, like, Disney Channel stars, and we didn't really know much about their private lives either. Like, unless they spoke up about it, it was pretty tight-lipped. And I feel like nowadays, social media opens up everybody's life, and a lot of people are more open these days. And I feel like if I were in this generation, like, I would want somebody to look up to. And I'm not saying that I should be that person for everyone, because I know I'm not going to be for everyone. But I think making a difference in somebody's life is definitely, like, top of my bucket list. And I am not saying any more because I feel like I've talked everybody's ears off about that. Just know that it's important to me because I feel like a lot of people get wanting to make a difference in this world, and I know that I'm not going to make a difference in this world because that's a huge thing to subject myself to, but to make a difference in at least one person's life is a little bit more doable. Anyway, moving on to more materialistic things, sorry. I want to ride in a limo. I don't know why. I don't even think it would be that comfortable, but I think it would be cool to experience. And, like, when I went to prom, I did not have that money. Like, it was not happening. I was decorating my 2004 Jeep Liberty with my ex-boyfriend, who at the time, we were just friends. Like, how do I put this? We were already exes when we went to prom. That's the best way to put it. But, like, we realized, like, we were better off as friends. And, like, I ended up coming out as gay a couple years later anyway. And by a couple, I mean 9 or 8. But anyway, I digress. I feel like riding in a limo would just be an experience that I want to just check off the bucket list. I don't know. It might be one of those woo whoop-de-doo moments, but I feel like it might be fun. I don't know. Another one is riding in a helicopter. So I'm actually scared of heights, and it's ironic for somebody who jumped off a cliff to be afraid of heights, but here we are. Riding in a helicopter seems cool to me. And I think it's because I've seen the view from airplanes and I want a more like aerial view, if that makes sense. Because one thing I will say about my attempt when I did jump off of that cliff is I actually took a moment to look out in front of me and actually appreciate the beauty of Connecticut and like the view that I had. And I feel like that view was just so incredible. And like, then I, said fuck life and jumped. But now that I'm like alive and I actually have the ability and the time to appreciate life, I feel like that's one thing that I would want to do is just like take in the moment of like an aerial view of the earth. I don't know. Maybe that's a weird one. Maybe it's not. Maybe y'all think I'm crazy. I've developed a lot of trauma and probably a little bit of ADHD with the way that I go back and forth with my thoughts. But I digress. I don't know. I feel like it would be something on the list to appreciate. Another thing I want to see is the Northern Lights. I feel like that would be a beautiful view, and I'm very jealous of my friends in Connecticut. I've seen the pictures. I don't know how the Northern Lights was able to spread that far in like view, if that makes sense. I never read up on it or looked into it, but I did see the sky was very pretty in the pictures that I saw on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm super jealous. But like, I'm so glad y'all got to experience, because I feel like beauty is just so, you have to take it in. So with that being said, I would love to go see the Northern Lights and actually like be there and experience it, and like definitely another thing off the bucket list, as well as Niagara Falls. I feel like that's a typical one, but I feel like that's, Niagara Falls or a waterfall of some sort. I feel like it would be really fun to just like not bathe, but like shower in it, like just stand underneath one. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't know why I said bathe or shower, because like I ain't doing that in a public water. I just want to like sit under the waterfall and like enjoy it, but like not to where the pressure would like cut my head off. That's probably never gonna happen, but like, oh my god, could you imagine? I don't know. Maybe those are just intrusive thoughts, but yeah. Another one is to stay in a treehouse. I've seen some really cool like Airbnbs or like hotels, and a treehouse one. Could you imagine? I just feel like that would be so amazing. And I know that there's setups that have that. I also want to stay in a cabin, but I think it's just that like earthy feel that I really want to feel connected to like the earth in some way, shape, or form, and also just see the beauty around me. Going off of the same-ish subject is staying in an overwater bungalow. I feel like these have become increasingly popular, and I feel like it would be so cool, especially if that overwater bungalow like had, I don't know, like a hot tub area or something. Even though I know my girlfriend is like creeped out with hot tubs and thinks they're disgusting. They probably are if a lot of people are in them, but like, I don't know. I feel like it would be cool if I did not subject myself to any health problems doing so. Another one, which might be on some people's lists and is definitely on mine, is to take a cooking class. So, remember how I said I went to Italy? I also got COVID in Italy, and I was supposed to do a pasta making class, but I did not feel well that day, and I'm so glad I did not go and actually get people sick, because I would have never forgiven myself if I got people sick, and I knew I was sick. Like, At the time, I wasn't feeling well and I had no idea what it was. I thought it was because I was constantly going. Like, this trip to Italy was literally like non-stop. You were early morning, late nights. Like, sleep was like never a thing, right? And I feel like I was just exhausted. Like, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I'm probably just exhausted. Like, let me just take a day and rest, right? Well, come to find out, later on, I got drunk and got alcohol poisoning and then ended up in the hospital with alcohol poisoning and COVID. And worst experience of my life, but I did create the alcohol poisoning by being stupid. So I digress. That is a mistake I made many mistakes ago. But that pasta making class would have been amazing if I went to it. And I'm glad I didn't, because I was sick and I didn't find out until later on, obviously. But yeah. And it's crazy because I wasn't like coughing or doing any of like the normal things that I had when I had COVID before. It was just like this super lethargic feeling, which is why I didn't know that it was COVID, by the way. And I had tested negative for COVID before getting on the plane, so I assumed I was safe, which is kind of dumb because let's face it, you can't assume that you're safe when like you're traveling and like going to a different country and going to all these touristy places. But anyway, I probably will never get to do a pasta making class in Italy, but I think if the opportunity ever arose with my girlfriend, I would love to. If not, any cooking class where a good meal comes out of it would suffice, and I think that that's more doable. I also want to travel. There's a lot of places that I want to travel to, but here are some of the top places that I want to travel to. California. I want to go to like LA, San Diego, San Francisco, maybe a couple other places. Like, I know for dang sure that there are many places in California that I would dream to go to. I want to go to the city, and I also want to go to like the middle of nowhere. So I know that that's a lot of ground to cover in doing so. Washington is a huge one. I heard Washington State's beautiful, and I've seen so many videos of just like this, like hundreds of miles of just beauty. So like, I want to go and just like experience again the earth, the water, the beauty of like what this earth has to offer, because I know it's out there and I just never really appreciated it as much as I should have when I was younger. I want to travel to Australia. I know my girlfriend will probably never go. She's freaking terrified of Australia and the spiders, but I still want to go. I also want to go to New Zealand, and I want to go to Greece. I was supposed to go to Greece, but because I had COVID in Italy, I had a quarantine and I missed the Greece leg of the trip. So I still want to go to Greece. And my mom just went, and I'm so jealous. Like, take me with you. But I know that when I'm meant to go, my time will be there. I want to write and publish books, specifically a poetry anthology and a novel. I have been working on a novel since high school, and I know that that sounds crazy because I've literally been out of high school for 10 years, and I've been working on it since I've been in high school, so it's probably been 11, 12 years that I've had the pages of these novels, and I'm only on chapter like 4, but I feel like I want to read through those chapters and really just start like writing a book, and maybe no one will pick it up. Maybe it'll become a New York Times bestseller one day. I have no idea. But I feel like as someone who has a lot of thoughts, I genuinely feel like I could use those for good and channel them creatively because I love a good creative outlet, and I feel like writing is just something that I know that I'm good at, and I wish I released more of my writing. So, I think the poetry anthology is more doable at this stage in my life, and I feel like I could probably feasibly have a poetry anthology published in like a couple of years time span, if not a year's time span, depending on how much time I spend writing. But I've seen so many poetry books that are like published and out there in Target, and I always pick them up because I love them. They're so good. I enjoy them. So, like, why can't I, right? Like, I know that I'm capable. I know that when I'm writing versus speaking, I'm good with words. When I'm speaking, I get a little bit out there, I get distracted. But overall, like, I know that I'm good with words, and I know that if I just took the time to like write an anthology, it would be so beautiful. So that is my bucket list. And I know that I've mentioned things that I've already kind of checked off and then things that I haven't, but I want opinions from y'all. If you're listening, if you have even made it this far, thank you, first of all. But if you're listening, write what you have on your bucket list, whether it's one idea or your whole bucket list. Like, I want to hear it. Maybe other people watching the video can get ideas. I'll get ideas. You guys have heard my ideas now, and I know that they're not the best. There are some things on there that are a little cliche, but I want to hear it. I'm super into travel, although I've only really went to Italy and the Caribbean. I want to go to more places, and I'm actually going to Colorado in 2 weeks, and I'm really excited about that. So if you have ideas, let me know. I want to hear them. And if you have any ideas for what to do in Colorado Springs, I will be there for a couple of days. My girlfriend has given me some ideas because she's been there before, but we're going together to see her best friend and her wife, and I'm really excited because we're bringing Remy and Sadie along, our dogs. So yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you guys so much for listening. I tried to keep it short, but I talk too much, so I am so sorry that it's 40 minutes long. But I love you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week, which, by the way, next week is a little bit more serious of a podcast. It's about finances, so stay tuned if you want any tips that I have come across with how to budget and finance and all that good jazz. I don't know why I said finance. That was so dumb, but whatever. Whatever. I'm beat. It is almost 7 o'clock. I'm done for the day. Okay, love you guys. Bye.